The litany of things that have happened, the litany of things Trump is doing specifically for Russia, even before today, even before this weekend, we had the Justice Department making a major change. Justice Department prosecutes foreign agents under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Trump Justice Department announced they will no longer enforce the Foreign Agent Registration Act. The FBI and the Cybersecurity Division at the Department of Homeland Security, they both have election security units that monitor and combat foreign influence operations specifically targeting our elections. Under Trump, that FBI task force and that part of CISA, the cybersecurity agency, have both been shut down. Trump's Justice Department has also announced that it is closing its unit that seeks to enforce economic sanctions against Russia. Task Force Kleptocapture is now gone. Russia kicked USAID out of Russia in 2012. Vladimir Putin has sought since then to demonize USAID and to try to get USAID kicked out of as many other countries as he can. Well, Trump decided that USAID would be the first agency he and Elon Musk would target to fully shut down. Last week, Trump specifically shut down the American project that helps Ukraine keep up its electrical grid. Keep its electrical grid up and running as Russia has bombed it and attacked it over and over and over again during this war, specifically to try to freeze the civilian population to death in order to force Ukraine to surrender. Before last week, the United States was the major source of assistance to Ukraine to keep its electricity on, to keep that grid up. As of last week, Trump has withdrawn that help. At the United Nations, under Donald Trump, we sided with Russia and against Ukraine and all of our allies when it came to a resolution marking the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Trump now says that Russia should be allowed back into the G7. Trump sent a high-level delegation, a U.S. government delegation, to meet with the Russian government in Saudi Arabia. He says he's looking forward to meeting Putin himself in person. Maybe he will invite him to the White House. I fully expect that he will. Trump appointed a new director of the FBI who was recently paid $25,000 to appear in an anti-FBI propaganda film made by a guy who has been paid by the Kremlin to make pro-Russian propaganda. In his first day on the job at the FBI, he announced that he'd be moving 1,500 FBI agents out of Washington and that he'd mostly be working from home in Las Vegas. Also, that nobody has to wear a suit anymore at the FBI. The New York Times reports that he also, in his first meeting with FBI agents, seemed to not know that intelligence and counterintelligence are two different things. Quote, Mr. Patel used the words intelligence and counterintelligence, quote, interchangeably, suggesting that he was confusing them, according to half a dozen people familiar with the call. That's FBI. However, how are things going over at CIA? Well, at CIA, they are carrying out the largest mass firings in 50 years. And then they sent a list of CIA employees to the White House in an unclassified email. CNN now reports on a new naval intelligence document which says our foreign adversaries, including Russia, have, quote, directed their intelligence services to ramp up recruiting of U.S. federal employees working in national security, targeting those who have been fired or who feel they could be soon. The Washington Post now reports that at the National Nuclear Security Administration, among the people Trump mass fired and then belatedly tried to rehire were people, quote, with Q-level security clearances, which gives them access to America's nuclear secrets. Nuclear nonproliferation experts in Washington warned of the risks of firing such workers who have knowledge that is highly valuable to rogue states and terrorist groups. One senior Trump advisor has now publicly suggested that the U.S. should break up the so-called Five Eyes intelligence sharing arrangement that we have with our closest allies, including Great Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. 6 weeks into this term, what is on President Vladimir Putin's wish list that he is not getting? Trump is inviting the Russians to establish a full diplomatic presence in the United States once again, to reopen their embassy at full strength and all of their consulates. Headline on that at CNN, Russia sees talks with U.S. as an opening to rebuild its spy networks. The cybersecurity publication Recorded Future was first to report this weekend that Trump has now told U.S. Cyber Command to stand down in all of its operations targeting Russia. From the New York Times, quote, over the past year, ransomware attacks on American hospitals, infrastructure, and cities have ramped up, many emanating from Russia. Sabotage efforts in Europe, including suspected Russian attempts to cut communications cables, mysterious explosions, and Russian-directed assassination plots, have also accelerated in the past year. The U.S. until now has been central in helping European nations fight back, often in covert cyber operations, but now that cooperation could now be in jeopardy, with, again, U.S. Cyber Command being ordered to stand down its operations against Russia. Yesterday, Mike Turner, Republican congressman, former Intelligence Committee chair, told Face the Nation on CBS, hey, that can't be right. They asked him about those reports. He said he was, quote, certain that the Trump administration could not possibly have told Cyber Command to stand down on Russia. But yeah, believe it. In fact, they have. Tonight, they demanded the resignation of the chief of the FBI's New York field office, who spent most of his career investigating or supervising counterintelligence cases. Tonight, he has been forced out. The White House has told the U.S. State Department and the U.S. Treasury to start removing sanctions on Russia. And tonight, of course, they have made it official that we are full stop cutting off the aid we have been providing to Ukraine. The aid that Congress approved and that Trump therefore does not have the legal power to stop. But he is stopping it anyway. Who is this for? And what did they do to get all of this? What has Russia given up to get this list of things that they have received in the first 6 weeks that Donald Trump has been back in the White House? This weekend, the foreign policy chief of the European Union said, quote, the free world needs a new leader. The rest of the free world is trying. This weekend, the Prime Minister of Great Britain and the President of France announced that they would form a new coalition of the willing to support Ukraine. And they hoped they might get support from the United States for that effort. The United States, our government, has changed sides in the world. And it seems pretty clear they will not be doing that. Our government now sides with Russia and against America's allies. And we spent years trying to figure out why the Republican Party and its new leader would be inclined in that direction. It now sort of doesn't matter. What matters is the new reality is that he controls the government, and that's the way that he has changed the U.S. government's orientation in the world. And it really is hard to imagine what else Putin might want that Trump hasn't already given him in just these 6 weeks.